It's football time. Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the live stream. That's the Fantasy Footballers live stream if you're nasty. It's me, Mike the Fantasy Hitman Wright, joined by Jason Moore. Andy is on the IR looking for his voice that has been stolen Ursula style. It's just not there.
He does have legs. And
yes.
So that's a really important part. You know, we were talking the NFL draft today, and a big part of the draft this year were trades. And so he, made a successful trade, has legs, lost his voice.
Yes, but we knew that the live stream had to go on, so we found the two best footballers. That's us.
Oh, well, yeah.
And the cardboard bear extraordinaire, Mr. Jay Grizz, who had himself a fun time at the NFL draft there, got a little bit of protection for Mr. Justin Fields. Welcome in, everybody. It is Ultimate Draft Week. We are wrapping this thing up in just a couple days. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope everybody enjoyed the first round of the NFL draft. It was a good time. It's always full of movers and shakers and some big surprises, and the Detroit Lions gave us the biggest surprise of the night. But quick reminder before we start breaking everything down, order that Ultimate Draft Kit. I should say pre-order the Ultimate Draft Kit, or if you are Dynasty inclined and DFS inclined, get that Ultimate Draft Kit Plus because you get content right away. But anyways, if you pre-order that right now, you are entered automatically to win, possibly win a signed Jaylen Waddle jersey, a signed DK Metcalf jersey, and the biggest prize of all, a spot in our Listener League for 2023. Jason, how hyped are you to talk about the draft?
I am very, very, very hyped. I think last night was a lot of fun and really cool for fantasy. I think it was a home run almost across the board. There were a few strikes, but for the most part, it was like my view of the first. Like if you're at one quarterback rookie dynasty league and you had the 106, I'm like, it kind of sucks this year. I don't think it does anymore.
Right,
Like,
it has improved.
The landing spots specific to the players that matter for the first round were pretty good, and we're going to break that down. But I do want to touch on some. You said, and it's right, pre-order the Ultimate Draft Kit. But you're not really pre-ordering the Ultimate Draft Kit Plus because all the Dynasty content is there right now.
Yep.
But you get pre-order pricing. You're saving $40 off if you actually order, plus you get that Listener League entry. So do that now, ultimatedraftkit.com. You get all of our information and our Dynasty rankings, our startup rankings, our rookie rankings, and our Superflex rankings are all going to be there once the NFL draft is over. So this next week, you'll have it in your hands.
Yeah, the Dynasty Pass will get its third drop of content. That means the final mock draft will be there. The updated rankings, as Jason said. Updated trade targets and all of those things. And Jason, speaking of shmoney, yeah. My dude, Lamar Jackson, he heard my cries. I said, Lamar, I have to know by the end of the NFL draft. I have to know, please, sir. Are you going to be the quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens?
And he said, I'll do it by the beginning of the NFL draft.
He took care of that. He got the bag. He got the big bag of money. So congratulations to you, Mr. Lamar Jackson. 5-year, $260 million with the $185 million guaranteed.
Look, the Baltimore Ravens are a very well-run organization. So they got their stuff together, and they got it done. What's the next piece of news?
Speaking of, do we have that?
It is a not well-run organization.
This one.
Yeah. There we go. The Cardinals. Yay. Well, we traded the 66th overall pick. You might have missed this because it broke.
This was pre-draft.
It broke right when the draft started to sweep this under the rug. But we traded the 66th overall pick to the Eagles for the 94th overall pick and a later fifth. And you go, why? Well, because we tampered. We tampered in order to get Jonathan Gannon. You know, everyone was scratching and clawing to get Jonathan Gannon as head coach. They're like, they tampered. They went ahead when they couldn't, and then self-reported and said, "Hey, NFL."
I don't mind that, especially in this. They saw what happened to the Miami Dolphins. Of tampering happened, and Tom Brady, or there was the Tom Brady stuff, and the Miami Dolphins lost their first-round pick. I think the Cardinals realized they made a boo-boo, and they wanted to get out in front of it. I accept that. I don't accept making the mistake in the first place when, at least media-wise, they were bidding against themselves for Jonathan Gannon. Hopefully it works out.
Yeah.
But come on. Really quick update on the NFL draft game that we play. Currently, Jason and I have a commanding lead. We are tied with 2 picks.
We are double over Andy. You know what we need to do? We need to have like an additional point for team and draft position. You know what I mean? Like if you say, oh, that team needs a quarterback, but you didn't get the right one, or that team's going to draft a wide receiver, but you didn't get the right one, we should get slight hit for that. But yeah, right now the odds to win, you're in first place. 46% chance to win odds. I don't know how Kyle calculates these odds.
Well, here's the big thing is C.J. Stroud went number 2 to the Houston Texans. Houston, good work. You did the right thing. I thought I was making the wrong pick by saying this is the right thing to do. And then if you were following along with any of the betting markets, about 30 minutes before the draft, all of the sudden, C.J. Stroud's odds to be the number 2 pick in the NFL draft went from like plus 400 or something to shrinking to minus to all of a sudden it was minus 2,000 or something on DraftKings. So DraftKings was essentially saying this is locked, this is going to happen, and then it did happen. So thank you to Houston. So the big 2 picks at the beginning here, we have Bryce Young, we have C.J. Stroud. Do you have any change of heart now that we know that Stroud is a Houston Texan? We knew Bryce was going to be a Panther. Has Stroud to Houston changed your overall look of him? I mean, these are pretty instant reactions. We still don't know what they've done with the rest of the draft. We know they didn't take Jackson Smith and Jigba at the 12 because they traded up for Will Anderson, a defensive player. So as of right now, C.J. Stroud is not playing with the strongest pass-catching crew.
Yeah, I would have preferred if they stayed at 12 and took Jackson Smith Najigba, to pair him with C.J. Stroud. It doesn't change my view much. I do think that the Houston Texans as a landing spot for a quarterback this year is one of the worst destinations. It's great for him to go number 2, to have that draft capital, to have that self-assurance of you were the second best quarterback at least in this draft. But you are going to a place where you don't have a lot of weapons. You're not going to be a great team. The coaching system there, I think everybody in the world loves DeMeco Ryans. We just don't know yet. He hasn't been a head coach. He is a defensive head coach, and they don't have the weapons yet for him. So it's not one of those landing spots where you go, man, this is going to be so good for that player. So, for instance, at pick 3, they traded with the Arizona Cardinals, got their defensive guy. But then at 4, we've got Anthony Richardson. Well, Anthony Richardson is going to a system where you have Michael Pittman, you have Jonathan Taylor, and now you've got Shane Steichen, an offensive-minded new head coach that is coming from taking a non-first-round quarterback who was mobile and, that guy's never going to work out, and turning him into an MVP caliber, or at least being there as part of that journey, and then drafting another super freak athlete who has a lot of tools. I think that is a great landing spot for Anthony Richardson. And man, for fantasy, I'm in. I am all the way in on Anthony Richardson. I will probably have some shares in my redraft leagues.
Yes.
Where you're not even sure he's going to start week 1. If I had to put money on it, I would say he's not going to start week 1. Gardner Minshew started a game last year with Shane Steichen for the Eagles. He came with Steichen. So they're prepared to have Anthony Richardson not start. But I think the destination's so good for him.
So Shane Steichen, not only a huge part of the development and growth of Jalen Hurts, he was also in Los Angeles when Justin Herbert had the rookie year where he was a smash sensation. He was the offensive coordinator down there. So I have, after, we knew he was going to go very high. I've kind of been vocal in I'm concerned about, can he translate to a pro? But having said that, I do think that this is kind of the best situation for Anthony Richardson. I will say I still carry all of my concerns of, can he develop into an accurate and pro NFL quarterback?
And those are fair concerns. They're so stupid, but they're fair.
Right.
And I say stupid because he's gonna develop. He's gonna be great.
And that's fine. But the way I play fantasy football, and look, I'm a risk taker with these quarterbacks. I want upside, so I will be making the move. I'll be moving Anthony Richardson up to my number 1 quarterback. I'm going to have Stroud at 2 and Bryce Young at 3. And
not Will Levis.
We will get to him
too soon because we haven't gotten to pick. We
still don't know where he's going to be. Maybe he goes to the perfect spot and he leapfrogs everybody. But you brought up redraft, and because back when Trey Lance was drafted, I made the exact same case of, look, Trey Lance won't be starting week 1. You could get him very late, and the odds are he will be starting sooner or later. The rushing ability is a cheat code for fantasy football, so it is. I think it will be a smart move, depending on what his ADP lands on of Anthony Richardson in redraft. And you got to take if you're in a single quarterback in Dynasty, I think you take the shot. The first quarterback should be Anthony Richardson. You take the upside. If you're in a 2 quarterback, maybe then I go with C.J. Stroud because I feel safer with him that I'm going to have a longer-term quarterback. I see a couple people in the chat.
I see a couple people in the chat saying they're banging the drum for Young. We haven't really talked about Bryce Young from a fantasy standpoint. He lands in a better situation.
Yeah, he's got Frank.
Exactly. Frank Reich is great. I had Stroud ahead of Bryce Young early in the process. I think I mentally flipped them later. I don't know how much of that was just once we knew who was going 1 and who was going 2, but the landing spot for Stroud does affect it a little bit. I think the weapons are better for Young. The coaching staff is better for Young. The security is better for Young. And so I think there will be a lot of people in fantasy leagues and Superflex Dynasty leagues that say the safest pick is the one that was drafted number 1, and they will take Young. And I would say to that, it makes complete sense. It is not how I play fantasy. I think his floor is very safe. I think who is the most likely to get a second contract, to get their 5th-year option picked up and sign the next contract? I believe it is Bryce Young. But that doesn't mean he is relevant or impactful, I should say, for fantasy football. There's a lot of guys who play a lot of years and never really make a difference because, I mean, sure, you can get some starts out of Kirk Cousins, and you might say, well, it's better to have a Kirk Cousins than nobody, and you're right. But you're not winning the championship with Kirk Cousins. You're winning the championship when you drafted a Cam Newton and had a shorter stretch of pure, unadulterated fantasy points. So that's why I would, not have Bryce Young number 1. But he does have a very good situation.
It's the Bijan Minute, yeah.
Woohoo!
You got this one right, Jason. You picked with your heart. And apparently so did Arthur and company at the Atlanta Falcons.
I think, did we learn a lesson this year? Because C.J. Stroud was a heart pick for you. It's like, that's what should happen. Because you didn't believe that was what was going to happen.
I didn't believe it because every external source was telling me this is not happening anymore.
And a lot of external sources would say, it's ridiculous for Bijan to go number 8.
But my heart and my head say this is what should happen. Bijan should not have gone to the Atlanta Falcons.
Absolutely. I mean, if I was the GM, and I love Bijan, there's no chance in the world that I think that's best for making my franchise win games. He's awesome. He's going to be great.
Yes.
But there is
going to be great for fantasy.
He's going to be so good for fantasy. Warren Sharp put out this post that was just destroying the Falcons for taking this pick.
I'll try and find it.
Yeah, you pull it up. But he was just destroying them because their running game was fantastic last year. And so this is both a case of why you shouldn't have drafted Bijan, but also a case of now that you did draft Bijan, he gonna be great.
Okay, here's the tweet. So this is the Falcons' scheme last year. So with their scheme, they allowed their running backs to rank number 1 in rushing yards, number 1 in yards per carry, number 1 in rushing first downs, number 2 in EPA per rush, number 3 in success rate, number 3 in first downs or touchdowns per rush. They had 3 running backs ranked top 20 in efficiency out of 69 qualifying running backs. Tyler Algier broke the rookie rushing record last year. They took all of that for a team that is they got
a few holes.
They're not close to a Super Bowl. And that's the ultimate goal. The goal is not be like, hey, we're going to be a pretty good franchise. No, the goal is to make the playoffs, have a fantastic season, and hopefully win a Super Bowl along the way. You don't win it by having this and then throwing it in the garbage because you're taking all of that success, putting Bijan into it. Bijan's going to have tremendous success. But meanwhile, 1 pick later, Jalen Carter, who has the talent that he could have – I mean, he had some off-field stuff, so he kind of fell a little bit. But talent-wise, could have been the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft, a true defensive changing type of a player, in my opinion. I'll add that in there. But you go with a running back at number 8. Like, look at the how'd that work out for
any of them?
For any team.
Any of them. Saquon, Christian McCaffrey, all the – like – they're great, and they succeeded.
Yeah.
Their teams just lost all the games because running backs don't impact the game the way that a pass rush does, the way that a cornerback does, the way that a wide receiver does. Like your wins and losses just aren't they're great, and they're useful tools. They're luxury picks. You can get away with them, and this is such a deep draft.
They can take you over the top. I do believe that.
Yes.
Like, Christian McCaffrey changes an offense.
The Niners adding Christian McCaffrey, brilliant.
Because they were there. They just needed a little bit to go over the top Stallone style.
Right.
But not when you're picking 8th overall.
Turn that hat backwards and slam that hand down when you're not spending a top 10 NFL draft pick for a running back. But he will be great. People question, so what happens to Tyler Algier? You have a tombstone.
And this,
it's over.
It's a massive L for me here because, look, I knew it was. Of course, it's possible that Bijan goes there, but those numbers that Sharp laid out, like analytically, you just kind of knew that stuff. I didn't think they would actually replace Tyler Algier. I mean, Arthur has a plan.
He has a plan.
We learn our lesson all the time of these successful late-round running backs. They get replaced. It just happens. It's even worse because it's the same regime. Like this isn't like Philip
new
Lindsay.
GM, new
and they're
new
like,
head coach.
sorry, you're not our guy. That's not our style. We want someone else to do it. I sort of get that. It was your scheme. These guys were having tremendous success, and you're like, no, we need to upgrade that position.
Well, Arthur Smith is coming from Tennessee, where they did win a lot of games, and they did it because of Derrick Henry. He was an MVP candidate at the running back position.
Also, a really strong defense.
Right.
At that side.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that part.
because of Derrick Henry. Wink.
Because their defense is getting so much rest because of Derrick Henry.
Keep the offense on the field, slow the game down, run the ball. So, yeah, I mean, this is like I remember when Breece Hall was drafted, everyone was like, Michael Carter's going to be fine. They love Michael Carter. Nope. No, he's not. He wasn't. Michael Carter's irrelevant now, and so is Tyler Algier. This is why last year, and this is coming up. This is coming up in like the next 2 weeks for people that are playing fantasy and doing their rookie drafts. Our rankings were my personal rankings. I had a couple people, friends of friends, who were besmirching how low I had day 3 running backs, saying that the landing spot was so good for someone like Tyler Algier.
Yeah.
And then the rookie year comes, and you look like, yeah, you got the L on that dynasty pick. No, you don't. They're replaceable. So that was the word with Dameon Pierce. Now, Dameon Pierce,
so far so good.
He already got Devin Singletary, so he's not going to have the full workload already. Devin Singletary, I think, does take them out of the running of any important. They're not going to get Charbonnet or anybody, but
right.
All right, let's move on. What happened after?
Yeah, well, just a quick reminder: Ultimate Draft Week. It is happening.
That's a great reminder.
If you pre-order the Ultimate Draft Kit right now at ultimatedraftkit.com, you're automatically entered to win maybe a signed Jaylen Waddle jersey, maybe a signed DK Metcalf jersey. Oh, it's up on the screen there.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely entered to win.
Yes. Yeah. I'm saying maybe you can win that, but you are for sure entered, and then you are entered to win a Listener League spot if you are so kind to have supported this show back when we first launched the pre-order. Do not worry. You are entered as well.
Now, do you win this gold seal, that gold badge that was on the screen?
We can email it to you.
I think we should.
There's not a real physical copy.
No, we don't have gold that we can.
It is art, Jason, but that's digital art.
Wow.
It doesn't exist in the physical realm.
Yet.
So maybe a nice email.
AI will come through and they'll figure out how to print that.
So check that out, ultimatedraftkit.com. So the Falcons take Bijan Robinson, and then the Detroit Lions, who had traded back with Arizona back to the number 12 pick, they said, hold my beers.
Oh, yeah.
This was not a singular beer.
No, to be fair, they said, hold my beer cans. They're empty. They are.
Recycle these, please.
They don't want them recycled. They're too high-tech. What are you talking about? They're like, crush these on your heads, guys, because we're going to get a running back that we could get later. Right now at 12, we don't need him. We signed for $18 million, David Montgomery, but let's add on a running back.
It's not enough.
Insanity.
Jamhyr Gibbs is on the Detroit Lions, and I don't think there was a single soul
outside of Detroit
watching the NFL draft and went, what the, and then just a string of curse words not safe for this podcast.
Oh man,
so here we are. Like you said, Jason, they just brought in David Montgomery. I believe so Montgomery has the 5th most guaranteed money for a free agent running back since 2020.
If you wanted Gibbs, you could have re-signed Jamal Williams, who was great, for much cheaper. And then that's a very different player. What they really want is they want a good DeAndre Swift. Well, no. I'm saying instead of getting David Montgomery,
yes,
save a bunch of money and then draft Gibbs. There's no world where this is good roster construction. We talked about that with Bijan. Bijan's great. This is not saying that Jamar Gibbs is not going to help your offense. He will.
Yeah, he's great.
The question is, will you win more football games with a running back helping your offense, or, I don't know, like Tyree Wilson, an unbelievable edge rusher on the opposite side of Aiden Hutchinson that would actually impact the outcome of games.
We'll never know.
We will never know, but they did it. They traded back from the 6 to the 12, which was with our Arizona Cardinals.
That was a fine move, and it was a fine move, especially considering they then said after the draft, we would have been willing to take Jamhyr Gibbs at 6.
Well, you're always going to say that when you get the flack feedback. Other people have reported that they did consider Bijan at 6, which would have been – I mean, they could have drafted
Even
Bijan.
that would have been insane.
Like,
what are you doing?
we just dunked on the Falcons for doing it. It would have been so stupid for the Lions to do it. But if you're telling me, should we draft Bijan at 6 or Jamhyr at 12, because they chose – I mean, I'd rather have Bijan.
I feel like if I'm running the Lions, you're at 6, right? You already know you're picking there. Bijan will be there. Those that 3. You didn't know 3 quarterbacks, but you know the quarterbacks will go. The high end defensive players are going to go. Bijan Robinson will be there. Don't give Montgomery all that money. Just draft Bijan at 6.
If you haven't seen it, and I know right now you're watching a streaming service, so you're online, you're on social media. I'm sure you've seen it. But if you haven't seen the war room of the Detroit Lions when they make this pick, you have to watch it. You have to go. It's I know I tweeted it out. You can go to my socials. You could probably go to anybody's socials. Everyone had to have tweeted this out. The dude almost broke the desk. And
he almost broke Dan
other
Campbell.
Humans. I mean, they were so pumped for this pick.
Andy pointed this out to me later, that watch Dan Campbell the whole length of the clip, because the GM elbows him in the stomach. Campbell's trying to high-five people and play it off, and then he slowly goes back to a table in the back, and he's like, "Oh!"
I'm gonna have to watch that.
Like he took a shot, and
so
Dynasty, where's Jamhyr Gibbs for you now?
So it is funny.
He went number 12 overall.
That's what is so hysterical. The team I wanted Bijan Robinson to go to the worst landing spot for him, the one I was dreading more than the Patriots, was the Detroit Lions. Awful landing spot. They have running backs. Also, they are known to destroy the careers and the value of every running back they've touched since Barry Sanders. He has cursed them, yada, yada, yada. And yet, this is a good landing spot for Jamhyr Gibbs because it comes with the 12th pick. You don't slam the table and celebrate to that degree and give up this level of draft capital to not use him. I think Jamhyr Gibbs is going to catch a cajillion D balls for a running back. He will be – they have a plan in place. They wanted this player. They have a plan to use him. They spent enough capital to use him. I do think he will be very good for fantasy. It's not great. I would have preferred if he went to a place where he could try to be more of the dude.
But do you prefer second-round draft capital for Jamhyr Gibbs on what appears on the surface to be a better situation, or the 12th overall pick to the Detroit Lions?
It would have to be something like the Bengals in the second round draft him and move on from Joe Mixon. That would be the only situation that would be better than the 12th overall pick draft capital. So for the most part, I do think that this is a win for Jamhyr Gibbs. He moves up in my mental view of his outlook. Versus JSN now is a real good debate.
And I was going to ask you, because you've kind of stuck with your evaluation. You've had Charbonnet at 2. Is there anywhere that Charbonnet can go in the second where you're like, nope, I will still take Charbonnet over?
There's at least one place, and I just said it because I've been thinking about this. If the Bengals grab him and move on from Joe Mixon and he inherits that Joe Mixon role, then I will still have him above Gibbs, but it's not because Gibbs drops. Gibbs has now raised above Charbonnet to me in the pre-draft process, so Gibbs is 2. Charbonnet will be 3. But Charbonnet still has at least
you can
one.
Do the hand stack.
Exactly. He's got one bullet in that gun.
This reminds me so much of the couple years ago. We were doing the live stream reaction of I was so pumped that Clyde Edwards-Helaire went to the Chiefs and was a first-round pick, and we had this exact same question because I had the first pick in our Dynasty League that year, and it was, is there anything that can happen in the second round? And I was like, well, if Jonathan Taylor goes to the Colts, I probably have to think about it. And I thought about it, and I thought incorrectly. I decided very, very wrong. All right.
Are you afraid of the fact that every Detroit running back that's supposed to be great is bad for the
I don't buy into
franchise.
that stuff. I don't.
Fool me 10 times, it's terrifying.
It's because that's like ghosts.
Yes.
Because these are not the same people in the building.
No, 100%. That's what I'm saying. I think there are ghosts in Detroit that just haunt running backs drafted that are supposed to be great. If you're not supposed to be great, if you're Jamal Williams, you're the backup, go ahead. Get all the touchdowns. If you're Swift,
right.
If you're Kerryon Johnson, if you're Javid Best, a comp for Jamhyr Gibbs, if you're
Best didn't get ruined by Best got ruined by concussions.
You think the ghosts did not play a part in that? You're crazy.
All right, and DeAndre Swift will probably get traded sometime pretty soon, or the Detroit Lions will just torture us all and hold on to him.
Yeah, I will make my prediction now because everything on Twitter, everything is saying they're fielding calls. Swift is going to get cut. If you look at the quote, this is brutal.
It's another Bengals. Well, he's on the team right now.
I don't know if we could find the exact quote, but it wasn't good. It was like, is he part of your plans? And well, he's on the roster, but it's early. We don't know yet. The least ringing endorsement for Swift of all time. They obviously don't like him. They want what they think Jamhyr Gibbs is that he is not.
Yes.
Obviously, they have shown that with their actions. But I heard some Detroit callers on like SiriusXM NFL radio calling in saying like it'll be great when we trade Swift for like a second-round pick. It's like,
what?
You're
lucky if you get a 5.
A 5 is luck. 6 is probably the cost. He was a second-round pick who hasn't done it and has 1 year left on his contract. Like he doesn't have a bunch of value in a running back class that's so deep. Like that people could just spend a 6th on a pretty good running back this year, and then they've got him for 4 years.
For super cheap. All right, moving on to the wide receivers because a wide receiver run happened. Pick 20 through 23. I believe, can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe they said this is the first time that there's ever been 4 wide receivers straight in the first round of the NFL draft.
I have not heard for or against that, but I can tell you
well, then whatever. It sounds true.
Oh, it's
what
totally
a factoid.
True. Fact. Never before has this been done. Take it to the books. Guinness, write it up. But what was personally interesting here, my largest bet, I had several hundos on the line across the draft.
Yeah, your bets were a lot different than my 5er.
Yeah,
my 5 on C.J. Stroud being the first quarterback.
I had a very successful draft. I walked away significantly up.
Well, look at you.
But my biggest bet was the over on 3.5 wide receivers, and we're here on the clock at 20. And not one wide receiver's been. I'm like, well, that's an L. And then 4 picks later, I won the bet.
You knew a run was going to happen, and this is my favorite part of the NFL draft because, look, landing spots are huge for dynasty value, but draft capital is gigantic. And the NFL has said, we will do you no favors because 4 wide receivers back to back to back to back. You figure out who you want to draft in your dynasty rookie in your rookie drafts. This is how it went, and just in case you missed it. At 20, the Seattle Seahawks took Jackson, Smith, and Jigba. Their wide receiver core is just
it's awesome now.
Redonkulous. Then that was followed by the Los Angeles Chargers, who we thought maybe Jordan Addison's going to go there. Nope. They wanted the big guy. They liked that Mike Williams mold, apparently, because Quentin Johnston out of TCU went there, followed up by the Baltimore Ravens, who took Zay Flowers, and then the Minnesota Vikings took Jordan Addison. How do we possibly break this down? Have you adjusted your rookie rankings at all yet?
I have mentally gone through the exercise of looking at everybody and how I view them, but I haven't changed a single rank. I want to wait until the completion of the draft. Keep listening to post pressers, and all of that. So I don't have my official rankings, but I will say this: all of these are near perfect landing spots for those 4 wide receivers. What I was talking about at the beginning of the stream, if you weren't here, the fact that I think the middle to late of your first round got a lot stronger. It's because of this 4-pack. Jordan Addison being across the field from Justin Jefferson is perfection.
Great.
It's just like Devonta Smith across from A.J. Brown. You've got look, the defense is on A.J. Brown. The defense is on Justin Jefferson. But now here's just a skilled guy that can get open and beat secondary options, no problem. He'll catch the ball. He'll have yards after the catch. I love it. Zay Flowers goes to Lamar Jackson. This is a great landing spot, in my opinion.
And hopefully a heavier pass-heavier offense under Monken as the offensive coordinator.
The Seattle Seahawks are a very well-run organization. Are there a lot of mouths to feed?
Can't believe they got him.
Yes, but Jackson Smith and Jigba played this role with Chris Olave and with Garrett Wilson in college, where he's the slot guy, opened up by 2 elite wide receivers elsewhere, and now he gets to just do that again. He's going to be outstanding. And Quentin Johnston, my least favorite of these 4 from a talent skill perspective, gets Justin Herbert and will probably replace Mike Williams when his contract expires. I mean, all 4 landing spots are fantastic, and so I would happily take any one of these guys on my roster.
So the Chargers, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Josh Palmer, all of them, their contracts expire they're signed through, I should say, 2024. So that replacement is coming. You may have to wait a little bit on Quentin Johnston there. Or who knows? I mean, maybe they move on from Mike Williams. It'll take some dead cap should they do that next year. But this,
I don't think they'll do that. I believe that these teams are looking. Yeah, this is a replacement for Josh Palmer in the immediate, and in Mike Williams in the long term. Very similar to what's going on with Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think a lot of teams are saying we need 3. The Seahawks went in. I was listening to Fred Warner. Was it Fred Warner? I was listening to some ex-Seahawk.
Okay.
And he was talking about their biggest need was wide receiver. He says he needs a wide receiver 3 because, outside of Metcalf and Lockett, they just don't have any options. This was perfection for them. And
that's such a wild thing to say, because this is like teams don't have a third elite wide receiver. Nobody does.
Well, elite is certainly nobody has 3 elite options. Well, now I don't know. Maybe the Seahawks do.
But I'm before this.
But when you've got your Tyler Lockett as your Bengals.
Oh, the
Tyler
T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Tyler Boyd.
Yeah. When you've got your Tyler Boyd, it does help. It helps your offense significantly. So, and they don't have a great pass catching tight end. So I love it. I think it's a great spot for them.
So I am with you. I have the 105 and the 107 in our rookie drafts, and I was looking at that 107 going, man, which leftover player am I going to have to take? And now I'm pumped because I will, 2 of those 3 wide receivers, that's probably there's a good shot I end up with 2 of the 3 of them. And that's great. I am extremely happy to have that. As of right now, JSN I think he's still the best wide receiver, so he's that 102, 103.
Really sounded like you were saying Jason, like you were talking to me.
You would be. You'd be my 102.
I did tell Andy that if I get him on my team, I'm changing my team name to JSN Moore. That will be
okay.
At least one of my redraft names. I like it.
So I got him as the best wide receiver. I would take him there. Then I would go Addison, and then between Quentin and Zay Flowers, that's very, very difficult. I guess I lean Quentin, but that could look foolish. I think I've been in on Zay Flowers. I think he is a very, very good wide receiver. I love the fact that he's played everywhere on the field. Yeah, he's a bit undersized, but he has a lot of experience playing the X wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he is very, very good. So putting him in this situation, and Lamar Jackson, holy crap, man. He gets the bag of money, and now he gets to play with Mark Andrews,
Odell Beckham,
Rashad Bateman, and Zay Flowers.
It's unbelievable. He's never had something like this.
No.
When Zay Flowers was drafted, I had 2 thoughts. One, I thought perfect fit because Lamar Jackson can make a defense take time. Lamar Jackson could scramble around, and you can't stop him necessarily easily, quickly in the pocket. And if you give Zay Flowers 2.5 seconds to go beat somebody, he's going to end up wide open out there somewhere, and he's going to get found. So I love the landing spot, but my second thought was I am in on Lamar Jackson in fantasy. He is going to be on my rosters the way that Jalen Hurts was on all my rosters last year. He's going to be the guy wherever he's being drafted. like where he – because I still think he's going to go behind all the people that did it better this last year.
Sure.
I'm going to take him there.
And he is in my keeper lottery, and I am very excited at the possibility of getting to run it back, have Lamar redeem himself and redeem my fantasy team. So that's the wide receivers. The only other offensive pick for the rest of the draft of note, besides, offensive linemen and things, the Buffalo Bills were lurking because they were sitting there in the later 20s, and they saw that no tight ends had been selected yet. The Dallas Cowboys were rapidly approaching, and they said, remember when the Philadelphia Eagles jumped over the Dallas Cowboys to go get Dallas Goedert? That was a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we do that? So they traded up. They took Dalton Kincaid, who is a move tight end. He is not a rough and tough blocking type of a guy. He's like a giant wide receiver, and I will start the conversation here because I'm with you that it's so difficult to draft rookie tight ends because it just hasn't worked for fantasy, and yet this was the number one guy on my board. He ends up in a spot with Josh Allen. He has an elite he has an elite quarterback. Looking at the weapons on the team, you have Stephon Diggs, okay, elite wide receiver, starting to get a little bit older. They don't have a number 2 option. Yeah, it's Gabe Davis by de facto, but I don't know that the team really wants to be out there with, okay, we're relying on Gabe Davis. And Dawson Knox is a good player, but he is not the skill set that Dalton Kincaid has. So for you, Jason, is there any chance now, late first, early second round of a rookie draft, that you would take the shot on Dalton Kincaid because everything around him is so perfect?
So late, we don't know the rest of the draft. So when you say early second, yeah, there could be a world where everything from here on out goes very poorly for players' landing spots, and I don't like them all, and then maybe I'm in. But I love this landing spot for 2 reasons. 1, long term, I think it's going to be very good for them. And 2, in the short term, it's going to get a lot of people drafting him and pushing better running backs and wide receivers to me in my rookie drafts, because I will not be drafting a tight end in the first round. Because if you think about it like this, if you said, okay, Jordan Addison, you're going to get him, and he's going to be great in 3 years. Are you going to spend your first-round pick on that? Probably not. And that's if it's a guarantee he's great in 3 years. Tight ends, he's not going to be great this year. He might be serviceable a little bit next year, and maybe he'll turn into something great 3 years from now. So, no, I'm thrilled. I was hoping that both Mayer and Kincaid went somewhere where they would be super highly drafted just so that I would have other better players for fantasy purposes. Kincaid is good. It is a good landing spot. People will get hyped for it. It won't be me drafting him in rookie drafts. I'll trade for him in 3 years.
And is there anything else for you, Jason? About
the stuff left is what's going to happen here in 15 minutes. It's round 2, round 3. It's what are the ramifications for the players not drafted. When Gibbs went at 12, I started to have hope of, like, does that mean Charbonnet could go at 28 to the Bengals?
Oh, yeah, I had a little bit of butterflies in my tum-tum when they were on the clock.
Yeah.
I was like, do it.
Yeah,
do it, Cincinnati.
Make the mistake.
But it didn't happen. However, with those 2 guys gone,
yeah,
no one who's looking for a running back in the early or mid-second can play that game of, well, let's pass on the running back here because we'll take Jamhyr Gibbs or Charbonnet, whoever. Well, maybe we'll trade up and we'll take whoever's left. It's not.
I had a lot of worries coming into this draft, and I still do. It's not a done deal that Charbonnet would be a 3rd-round pick and not a 2nd-round pick. I know he's going to be a day 2.
Yes.
But does he go in the 2nd or does he go in the 3rd? Because that makes a big difference. It really does. Historically, that draft capital matters, what a team invests. The team views those picks very differently. And I feel like it's getting closer to a lock now that he's a 2nd. So that's one that I'm looking for. There's obviously the big fun / horrifically sad storyline with Will Levis.
Yeah, look,
It sucks because I feel like
it sucks for him as a person. We don't wish ill upon
not
him
at
all.
I've rooted for him to be good, but we've
Except for
dunked
the
on
banana
him.
Stuff.
Well, that was so stupid. And when you do Paxton Lynch stuff, you look like Paxton Lynch. But it's just one of those things where so I've got one bet left that I made today, which was when all the news is coming out about teams trying to trade up for Will Levis. There's everyone's calling the Steelers, who are on the clock with 32. Can we talk real quick? Like, could you imagine the 32nd pick being like, we'll give you Chase Claypool for that now?
Oh, my God.
What a mistake. But
yeah.
when that started happening, Will Levis had pretty good odds to go. His over-under line was 35.5. And I put my money on the over. I do not think he is going at the beginning of the second round. I think he's going to plummet quite further, and for his sake, I hope not. But this is usually what happens. Every team had a chance. Every team passed on him. Now you're not going to have teams trading up to get a fifth-year option. They would be trading up to get 4 years of the rookie deal. So I don't believe that these teams who pass on him are going to trade up into those first 5 picks of the second round. TBD, but that's where my money is. And then obviously Hendon Hooker wasn't drafted either. You got Jalen Hyatt out there, and then all the running backs.
Yeah.
Running back, and this is really coming into this draft probably the most impactful thing, because I've talked about my running back 4 through my running back 10 in pre-draft NFL rookie rankings. They're in the same tier. I've never had a tier that big. It's like, NFL, sort these for me. Give me landing spots. Give me draft capital so I can be excited about some of these guys and throw some of these guys away.
So if you were following along on the podcast when we made our draft predictions, some picks that are still alive. Will Levis, I have him to the Raiders.
Okay.
You guys are dead because you had Colts, Andy had Texans. Well, I guess maybe if Jim Irsay is to be believed on Twitter, maybe he drafts Will Levis here. It would be wild, but we will see. And then Hendon Hooker, you're still alive. Oh, no, you're gone because you had Texans. Andy has the Titans. I have the Seahawks, so both of those are in play. And then Jalen Hyatt and Josh Downs. But it's the quarterbacks really are the interesting thing of, like, the Raiders is in play here. They are one of the earlier picks in the second round. I could see them making it happen should Will Levis still be on the clock when they're there.
I've got Jalen Hyatt to the Titans. That seems like it could
could still happen.
Very much be in play. Where did I have Michael Mayer going? Do you have the
Yes, you had Mayer to the Lions.
So they would have they're picking in 4 picks or something?
Something like that. And I have them to the Packers, which is not that much further. So that it could definitely happen. So we got some other picks, some action if you're wanting to root along at home. It's always a good time to see if you can get those to happen. Final reminder, ultimatedraftkit.com. Get in on that pre-order pricing, the cheapest possible price, and you're entered to win a signed DK Metcalf jersey, signed Jaylen Waddle jersey, and, of course, the Listener League spot, the Ultimate Draft Kit Plus. The Dynasty Pass portion is going to be updated early next week. Very, very excited to get the third and final dump for that. Get everyone ready because rookie drafts are starting. I know that we will be starting ours officially on Monday, but Jason will probably make his pick. Have you made your pick yet?
2 months ago. 2 months ago, Bijan Robinson. Also, let me just say, I always love a third and final dump. That's one of my favorite moments.
The third one?
Yeah,
it's not the second one? A third one catches you off guard?
It's third and final. If it's the final, then that's an important.
Have you ever had a third trickster where, you think you're done, stand up,
I've had
getting all situated. Well, everyone's had a second trickster, but have you ever had a third?
I think I've had a third trickster, yeah. Yeah, it's like, well, how recently was Chipotle?
They're surprised. For me, 3 hours ago.
Well, so then you'll get a couple tricksters coming up.
That is going to do it. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning into the Ultimate Draft Week stream. We will be back with more analysis of the remainder of the draft. Also, you can tune into our socials as well. We likely be some tweets regarding pants, whether or not Charbonnet ends up in a good spot.
Yeah.
That's what me and Jason are watching.
That's all we care about right now for round 2.
Zach Charbonnet, go somewhere good.
Go to the Bengals.
Enjoy the draft, everybody. We will see you on Tuesday. Goodbye.
Thank Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.